So what's it like to teach in some of the top-ranked schools in the US, Colombia, and Korea? If you want to know, let's go. Hello amigos, I'm Patrick Young and I've taught for over a decade in the US and approaching a decade abroad. I'm also a writer of a manuscript and a man who's trying to travel more of the world with his killer smile. Today we're going to talk about students and parents in Colombia and Korea, but let's start with the US. So kids in the US. Of all the places I've taught, kids in the US are the hardest to categorize. They come from a range of ethnic and religious, socioeconomic backgrounds, and that's what makes them awesome. They also come with a range of challenges the teacher has to face in terms of behavior and academic ability. The skills of some students are way above grade level, while some skill levels are well below grade level, and they're all in the same classroom. However, when it comes to teaching in the US, kids are not the main story. It's the people who drive them to school. When you're starting to become a teacher in the US, there really needs to be a class or 2 or 12 on working with parents, because despite all the challenges you face in class, and you will face some, the challenges you can face outside of class can be way more daunting. 75% are great and you'll be glad you worked with them. They want their public schools to succeed, especially since they have high hopes for their kids and their property values. These parents are great to work with, they also just happen to be pretty quiet, which is kind of unfortunate for teachers. 25% of parents can range from mildly problematic to completely unhinged. You might think that all is well, but that can change quickly. What can trigger them? Let me give you an example email I might send home. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, I'm Mr. Young, Billy's English teacher. I just want to say that it's been a pleasure having Billy in class. However, I've noticed that he's been struggling with the reading since he seems lost in class and he's had some low scores on the reading checks. We still have half the book left though, and I'm sure he could catch up. Any help you could give at home to get him to read would be much appreciated. Sounds pretty benign, right? Well, you've just set up one of those unpleasant parents. In the past, we've called them helicopter parents, landmines, or even sleeping giants, among others. Now we call them Karens. And you, my friend, have released the Karen. In fact, you might say she's a helicopter Karen. And here she comes. She's going to rain thunder down on you, the principal, the assistant principal, the school board president, the mailman, her high school dance instructor, and anyone else who happens to be walking their dog outside her house when she reads your email. She will respond with an email of her own. Would you like to know how it would go? Okay, I'll indulge you.
Dear Mr. Young, our Billy has loved every year of his life in English class. That is, until you started teaching him this year. How dare you send such an impertinent email? And how dare you teach such an awful book that does not inspire Billy to read? School is a place for inspiration and wonder, and your class is 042. I will make sure to share my displeasure with all the pertinent parties. Oh, and Billy says your tie never matches your shirt.
A truly motivated helicopter Karen, just one, can ruin your year by sicking the principal on you, keeping you from disciplining your kid, and making you wonder if you're really the worst teacher on the planet. I should point out that I'm using a woman's name Karen since I don't know the male equivalent if it even exists. Karens can definitely be men, and they often are. Sometimes both parents will actually strafe you on their way to work. One way or another, the parents in the US are by far the most challenging I've ever worked with. 75% are great, as I said, but you'll definitely get some motivated Karens who drive teachers out of the business. Okay, so let's fly south to Colombia. Okay, so private schools in Colombia. I worked for a couple years in the capital in Bogotá and 2 years in Medellín. What are the students like? Some things I did in the US needed to be changed in Colombia. For instance, in my experience, there is no individual work. You can assign individual work, But you'll find out that soon one person's talking to another person who's talking to another person who's talking to another person. And in fact, the entire group is working together and they're texting people in all the classes around them as well. This was something to get used to. Okay, so that's inside class. What are students in Colombia like outside of class? Well, the kids are going to be totally up in your business.
Are you married? Do you have a girlfriend? What do you like best about Colombia? What's your favorite Colombian food? Who's your favorite Colombian soccer player? What's your favorite Colombian beer? Who are your best friends at school? When are you going home to the US? What do you miss most? Do you want to meet my cousin?
Can I finish my coffee? So how about parents in Colombia? Not so much like their North American cousins. Rarely had any problems. When I send an email home, the parents would often thank me and the kid would come back different the next day. The women would often kiss you on the cheek at parent-teacher conferences, even though you never met them before. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Rodriguez. Overall, parents in Colombia, pretty great to work with. Okay, so let's fly east to Korea. My students have Korean parents and they have split time between the US and Korea. They're all planning to go to the US for college. So what are the students like in Korea? As freshmen, students want absolutely nothing to do with participating in class. Even a yes or no question could make the kids flush red. When I call on these freshmen, they look forward, avoid eye contact, and then play the waiting game, hoping that you'll eventually move on and go to the next student. I would, but I don't, so this would just happen all over again. Sophomores and juniors are better, but let's just say they're not going to be a problem talking in class overall. As much as my students hated speaking in class in Korea, there's one thing that terrifies them. This one thing causes fights among students, sleepless nights, and the end of friendships. What is it? Group work. Why? They hate group work because the other kids in their group could bring their grades down. Either that, or possibly even worse, if you're working in a group, they can't get a higher grade than their group members. So what's the point? Teacher respect from students in South Korea? Not great in the US or Colombia. But kids here in Korea and in many parts of Asia are legendary for the amount of respect that they give to their teachers. In the work ethic, almost all the students spend a full day in school and then they go to hagwons or tutoring academies until often 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and then they come home and start their homework, which they'll do until 2 or 3 in the morning. How about the parents in South Korea? Well, their kids get it from somewhere, right? They have a great amount of respect for teachers, and education is incredibly important to them and their kids. No kids are coasting in Korea. The parents would not allow it. Sorry, bro. Well, that's today's video. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll get back to you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Feel free to follow me on Twitter and my website so I can get some more ideas from you for future episodes. And thank you for watching.